And now for the main event for the evening. We're truly honored to have, as our keynote speaker this evening, Honorary Box 52 member and retired Boston Fire Commissioner, Paul A. Christian. Commissioner Christian is certainly no stranger to the Box 52 organization, the Boston Fire Department, or the Boston buffing community. He's a lifelong resident of South Boston and a graduate of Northeastern University with a degree in mechanical engineering. Commissioner Christian, fulfilling a lifelong ambition to be a Boston firefighter, was appointed to the Boston Fire Department in 1968 and assigned to Ladder 1 in the North End, later transferring to and serving at both Ladder 20 and Engine 43 on Mass Ave in Roxbury. He was promoted to Deputy Chief in 1982, where he served at headquarters and as the Downtown Deputy Chief in Division 1. Commissioner Christian was named Chief of Department on March 27, 2000, and became Fire Chief Commissioner on November 9, 2001. During his 5-year tenure as Commissioner, he implemented many improvements to the Boston Fire Department, including a new radio system, lighter bunker gear, additional aerial towers, and foam-equipped apparatus. He created a Special Operations Command for hazmat emergencies and terrorist-related incidents. During his career, he commanded many notable fires in Boston, including the Orient Heights conflagration and the famous Chinatown fire of 1989. Commissioner Christian is also noted for his service to the Boston Firemen's Relief Fund, and along with the late District Chief Jerry Melito, was instrumental in the development of Bondo Memorial at Commonwealth Avenue and Dartmouth Street. Today, in retirement, he's very active with the Boston Fire Historical Society, which makes him the perfect speaker to help us here commemorate our 100th anniversary celebration. It's my privilege and honor to present retired Boston Fire Commissioner Paul Christian.
Thank you, Ken. Good evening, everyone. It's certainly an honor to be standing in this position to be your speaker at your 100th anniversary. I was here 25 years ago, I believe it was Alan Brunacini, and his Hawaiian shirt was there as your guest speaker. I'm not quite as flamboyant as Alan, but I'm a Boston guy. Last November, Chief Parr, Dave gave me a call, asked if I'd be a speaker at the Box 52 banquet, and I said, of course. He said, yeah, November 16th. I said, Dave, that's only 2 weeks away. He says, no, next year. So I said, Dave, I want to thank you tonight for giving me a little bit of leeway on that. And I asked Dave what he'd like me to speak on, because when you get to talking about the Boston Fire Department, I find it's just an endless source of topics. And I've been totally impressed with the history of this great department over the years. So I gave Dave a few topics, and he chose one. And so all year I was thinking about doing this presentation. Then as the time got near, I thought of one person, and I got a little bit nervous. I thought of Frank Fitzgerald. I said, I don't mind talking about the Boston Fire Department, but I'm going to be speaking before probably the most critical bunch of people I ever know. And Frank has been the only guy who's proofread the ball book. I used to print those every year for the fire department. But that notwithstanding, I'm going to try to do my best in front of this critical audience. First of all, though, I do want to commend you on a century of service. Looking back at what Box 52 Association has done over the years, it's really been remarkable, and I, for one, owe them a debt of gratitude for the people of your organization who went out, took photographs, wrote articles that were in magazines and newspapers, and actually perpetuated the history of the Boston Fire Department. Through Billy Noonan, fortunately, we have a tremendous archive of photographs that the Sparks and the Buffs of these organizations took over the years. It wouldn't be possible for me to do a presentation tonight if it wasn't for them. Another thing that the Box 52 Association did many years ago was to come out to fires with coffee, sandwiches, and the firefighters' favorites back then, cigars. They'd come out, and I read that they'd actually hold the coffee cups up to the lips of firefighters who couldn't hold them with frozen hands. They'd give them their sandwiches and they'd put a cigar in their mouth and light it up for them. That was really appreciated. On a more serious topic, when the Boston Fire Department was first looking into the radio system back in the early 1920s, I found out in my reading that the Boston Sparks Association, the members who were affluent enough to have vehicles, and on hearing your earlier remarks about the makeup of the organization, I think they were pretty affluent. They actually used their cars and radios to assist the Boston Fire Department in the design of that system many, many years ago. So tonight, what I'm going to do is take you back 100 years ago, try to give you a sense of what it was like in Boston and the Boston Fire Department in particular. If you look back 100 years ago, it was really a pivotal time in the history of our country and in the fire service. Many things had taken place technologically. The industrial age was going full strength, and the city of Boston was truly growing. Just looking at back in 1912, some of the things that were taking place. People here were still reeling from the Titanic disaster. The Fenway Park, as we well know, was opened. Seems like the curse is back on it after 100 years. Commonwealth Pier was under construction. Fish Pier was under construction. Copley Plaza Hotel was open. Filene's Department Store was open. Franklin Park Zoological Gardens were added to the Boston Park Department. The Aquarium in South Boston, City Point. Native Heaven Church, Ninth Church in South Boston, was opened, and Cardinal O'Connell, who became Cardinal that year, remarked that the city of Boston did not need two cathedrals. Quite a bit was going on in the city at that time, and I'd like to start the slide presentation, so you're going to have to look back over your shoulders. I put a presentation together and I'm going to try to give you a sense of what was actually taking place. There we go. Mayor of Boston in 1912 was John Francis Fitzgerald, a Dero from the Old North End, grandfather of President John F. Kennedy. He was the mayor. He was destined only to be mayor 2 more years because a young upstart named James Michael Curley came along and then seated him. So he was the mayor back then. He was known for his singing style. Here's some of the things that I mentioned earlier. There's a picture of Filene's Department Store. The city was definitely on the growth scale. Also added to Boston at the time was the Hyde Park annexation, which gave us several new fire companies. Here's a shot of Fenway Park as a look back in 1912. It certainly has undergone many changes since then. Here's a shot I like to just do it and just give you a sense of what Boston was like in the old days. This is Cornhill looking down at Adams Square's electric trolley car coming up. Some very early automobiles in the scene there. But in Boston, there was growth that was taking place. Thank you. If you look at that chart and you focus in at the fourth bar over, that's 1910. Boston's population was 650,000, approximately where we are today. But look back what's happened since 1880, when we went from 350,000. We've almost doubled in the population of the city of Boston. So the place was really growing, which translated to a lot of three-deckers for the people coming in. Now, how has the city changed from back then? It hasn't changed a heck of a lot, but there have been some landfills. Most noticeably, Commonwealth Flats down where the new Seaport District is in South Boston. In fact, a lot of that was filled in from debris from the Great Boston Fire. Logan Airport, that was filled in and made from Governor's Island and Boston Harbor. Castle Island Terminal in South Boston, which connects to Castle Island, that was built with fill from the tunnel from the what's now the Red Line that came from Park Street down to Broadway Station. And if you look over at Harrison Square off of Freeport Street and Morrissey Boulevard, you can see it's filled in over there now. But the Boston Fire Department had been in business for about 150 years at this time, and it was certainly no stranger to firefighting. They had earned a reputation of being one of the finest firefighting forces in the entire country. Here's a list of some of just the major fires that they fought during the years after the Great Boston Fire. These were the big conflagrations. Looking back in the old newspapers, it's just filled daily with smaller